Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning to every one of you. Welcome back to our week 2 of the whole course of Malaysian legal system. We have seen last week on the definition of law, what is law in general, and we also have looked at the legal system in the world: civil legal system, socialist legal system, common legal system, and Islamic legal system, right? And now this week we're going to look into classification of law. We can classify our law into 4 categories. The first one is national law and international law. Second one is common law and equity. Third one is substantive law and procedural law. And the last one is written law and unwritten law. Okay, what is classification of law? These are the 4 main classification of law. Now, when you ask to explain what is national law, this is how it should look like, right? What is national law? It is the law that prevails in the state, and compared to international law, that is law that prevails between states. So, if in the states itself, what we call national law. When we say state here means Malaysia, right? When between states is between Malaysia and another country. Now, for national law, which is the law that prevails between Malaysia, in the Malaysia itself, so we can further classify into public law and private law. So, public law is between individuals and the state, and private law is between individual in the sea. Now, what is public law? There are something that related between us and the whole public. Okay, this can be further classified into few others, but what I'm going to show you, there are 3 main classification, the 3 main examples of public law. The first one is the constitutional law. So, constitutional law is the rights of individual in the states, right? So, where are you going to get information on what are our rights? These are in the federal constitution. Okay, this is federal constitution. All your rights are stated in this particular small handbook. I would suggest each citizen should have a copy of this federal constitution, because it stated all your rights, basic rights, or what we call fundamental liberties. We're going to learn that later. So, among the fundamental liberties or basic right which we have is liberty of person, liberty against liberty, freedom of speech, assembly, freedom of religion. So these are what are your rights that has been stated in that particular federal constitution. So we need to learn constitutional law if you want to know about what are the rights of the individual in the states. But for your purpose, for this diploma public administrative students, you're just going to look at the whole of the rights in general. And the other types of public law is criminal law, which is offences against the states. For example, if you want to prove murder, you must prove 2 elements, which is mens rea and actus reus. So, what is mens rea? Which is intention to kill, and what is actus reus is the action of a killing. So, if for a prosecutor to charge a person for murder, you must prove these 2 elements, which is mens rea and actus reus, without which, if you fail to prove those, chances are that that particular person might not be charged with murder. These are criminal law. And when we talk about criminal law, it's actually obligation imposed on the individuals, whereby you're not supposed to hurt other person, you're not supposed to murder other person, you're not supposed to actually hit some other person or anything other than that. Basically, as a citizen, you must obey. You must do good. These are more on the criminal part. And the last one, last example is administrative law, to which this is the law that regulates and exercise powers by the administrative authorities. So what happened here is that the act or statute will give the administrators certain powers to enforce the law in our country. So this is administrative law, which you're going to learn later. The next classification is on the private law, which is individual, a law between individuals, inter se, meaning between you people, between the public. Examples is like contract law, which is the rights and obligation imposed in that particular agreement. Both parties agreed to have agreement. Both parties agreed to have obligation within the agreement. Another types of private law is tort, which is offences against individual. So law of torts you're going to learn towards later, and example of law of torts is assault, battery. What is battery? That is not your AA, AAA battery, but this is battery when you hurt some other person or you injured another person. Another one is negligence, defamation, nuisance. You're going to learn later. And another types of private law is trust, which is relationship between the beneficiary and the trustee. These are the examples of private law, and there are a lot of other things here. So we have looked at the national law in general. The next one is international law, which is the law that prevails between the state. So this is between one state to another state, so between Malaysia and another country. For example, case of Pulau Batu Putih, whereby both Malaysia and Singapore actually claiming rights over the property, and as well as the private international law, where a person from Malaysia marry another person in another country, and there were rights claim over the custody of the children, over the property of the spouses. So these are the things that you're going to discuss if you were to learn the international law. When we talk about international law, you need to know the ICJ, or what we call International Court of Justice, International Court of Justice, whereby it was established, part of the United Nations, and it is situated in Netherlands. So this particular International Court of Justice, actually they're going to there will be proceedings. They will be the main center for proceedings between countries claiming rights over each other or claiming rights over something. So this is more on international, public international law, to which the decision will be adhered. Everybody will follow what was decided or what will be decided by that particular International Court of Justice. The next type of classification of law is substantive law and procedural law. So what is substantive law? The substance or the content of the law itself, which relates to the rights and obligations of a person within the society, and basically something like the criminal or civil prosecution, to which the detail of it will be in the law itself. Okay. Now, if you were to compare what is procedural is the framework or the procedures itself, or on the enforcement of that particular law. For example, how to determine whether a particular action constitutes a criminal act. Okay. And you need to understand what constitutes a criminal act. And actually, what is criminal act itself is within the substantive law. Okay, so substantive law is the content of it, and procedural law is the procedures itself. So this another classification of law. The third classification of law is common law and equity. What is common law? These are the law that has been decided in UK, in United Kingdom. And it was developed in Malaysia because at that particular time, there was an absence of law to deal with the problems in Malaysia, and it was actually brought to Malaysia and practiced, and whatever decided in UK has been turned into rules or regulations or law in Malaysia. Okay, that is common law. Basically, from this common law, there is some rule that comes out from those common law, which is known as stare decisis, whereby the judge is bound to follow previous decision of previous cases of similar facts. So if similar facts arise again, the judge will actually look at previous cases that has been decided by the court, and those are what we call precedents, and we're going to say that it follows the precedent. So basically the judge has guidance on what to punish or what to decide over certain facts of case depending on that particular facts of case, and they will look into previous cases that has been decided. And another type is equity, whereby equity has been is actually something equal. Equity means like equal. There should be fairness between the parties, and whatever decided is based on the facts itself, whether it's fair to both parties. So it was a system that developed to be fair and create remedies such as decree or specific performance, injunction. Specific performance is something like if you agree between A and B, and there was an agreement, in that particular agreement there's a terms, and specific performance is where the court decided that the parties must perform what was agreed between them. That is specific performance. Compared to injunction, the either party can go to the court to stop another party from proceedings. So basically injunction, standard word, or generally is meant to stop an action, to stop something like that. And specific performance is actually to enforce what has been decided. Okay. The last classification of law is federal law and state law. So federal law is what has been decided by the parliament. They decide to approve certain acts that becomes a law. And state law is what has been approved, the type of law that has been approved by the state legislative assembly or Dewan Undangan Negeri. So state law will be enforceable within the state itself, whereas federal law will be enforceable in the whole of Malaysia. So for example, federal law, Defamation Act, so it will be between that particular act will be enforced in Malaysia. And state law, for example, enactment Tanah Negeri Sembilan, for example, state undang-undang, what do you call that? State law of Negeri Sembilan, land law of Negeri Sembilan. So these are the state law, right? So enforceability is only enforceable within the state. For the federal law, is enforceable in the whole of Malaysia. Okay, we have looked through in general what are the classification of law. Further details will be found in my book. You have to actually read further on your own what are those. And the next part we're going to look at is the functions of law. What I've listed here is 5 functions. The first one is to control and determine the life of society and to eliminate fairness and to eliminate unfairness between the parties. Another function is to establish the rights and liabilities of a person. So what are the rights of the person? It is in the federal constitution itself. And what are the liabilities, what you should do or what you shouldn't do. And to establish control and promote order of a system of a particular society, we have law like negligence, we have law of torts, and then as a means of settlement of dispute, we have mediation, we have adjudication, we have arbitration, and another functions of law is to achieve justice. Actually, there are a lot more other functions of the law, but what I've given here is only 5 main functions of the law, and you need to explain each and every one of it. You can even think from all those notes which I've given, you can actually come up with your own functions, but you need to understand the purpose of having the law itself, basically to ensure that the parties do what they can do, avoid doing what they cannot do. That is the general that you should understand. Okay, we continue later.